Merhaba. I just wanted to do a video on the Turkish language because I've been looking through my previous posts and I realized that I really haven't spent that much time talking about Turkish, and it's been one of the most interesting things about coming to Turkey, or at least a very interesting aspect of it, because it's very fascinating to be thrown into a country and a culture that speaks a language with which I had no previous exposure. So I wanted to just make a video and give you an idea of what it sounds like and sort of how it works, because it's really fascinating, especially for people from most people from the United States, because most people in the United States have never heard Turkish. I certainly hadn't before coming here, and I would say that the same is true even for most Western Europeans. Although there is a significant population of Turks in Western Europe, especially Germany, and even within the U.S., but not something that you hear too often. But it is an important language. Some people, I think, when they think about the world, tend to think, oh, Turkish is an insignificant language. No, it's not important. And while it certainly does not have the ubiquity that obviously English does, it is spoken. Either Turkish or Turkish-derived languages are currently spoken by 200 million people in the world. So, there's 2/3 of the U.S. population. Same amount of people. So, it is an important language spoken not only in Turkey, but in parts of Greece, in several parts of Eastern Europe, in many parts of Asia. So it actually is a very big form of linguistic expression. So anyway, obviously I started the video by saying merhaba, that is hello. Probably the most common greeting you hear. You hear it all the time when you're out in Istanbul. You walk into a shop, you say merhaba, or if a shop owner or a restaurant is welcoming you, if you want to say welcome, you say hoş geldiniz. And the proper response to that is hoş bulduk. So you'll go in a restaurant, people will say merhaba, hoş geldiniz, and you say merhaba, hoş bulduk. Very common. If you want to say how are you, you can say san nasılsın. That is, how are you? That's the familiar way to say it. If it's a more polite situation, you say siz nasılsınız, which is in many respects just like French and Spanish and all of the Romance languages have a familiar and a polite form. So does Turkish, and in fact, it even follows the same conjugation rules in the sense that if you're addressing the you familiar, it's the second person singular, and if you're addressing the either the you singular formal or the you plural, it's the second person plural. It's the same conjugation rules as in French, and Spanish for that matter. But so if you want to say that you are doing well or you're good, you say iyiyim. So a common exchange, just like in many other languages, especially English, is hello, how are you? The person replies, I'm good, thanks, how are you? Very common exchange, and the way that would go down is something like this. Merhaba, san nasılsın? İyiyim, teşekkür ederim. İyiyim, teşekkür ederim, san nasılsın? Ben de iyiyim. So what I just said was hello, how are you? Thanks, I'm good, how are you? And that thing I said at the end, ben de iyiyim, ben de means also. So I'm also well. And you hear that phrase, benda, a lot of times. Sometimes you don't even have to say the iyiyim part. You can just say banda or benda. It just means me too. Let's see. If you want to ask someone what he or she does for a living, you say sen iş yapıyorsun. Again, sen is you, Ish is work, and that word ne, sen ne ish yapıyorsun. Ne means what, and yapıyorsun means it's the verb yapmak is to do, and so yapıyorsun is a conjugated form of that. So you're literally saying, literally it would be like you, what, work, do, but it means what do you do for a living. If I wanted to say what I do, I wanted to say that I'm a student, I would say ban öğrenci. I am a student. Öğrenci is student. Teacher is öğretmen. There's a whole, engineer is mühendis, just for example. But let's see, the numbers are also interesting. I will just count to 10 for you so you have an idea. It's always fun to learn how to count to 10 in other languages. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So again, these are very useful practical things that I use on very much a daily basis whenever I'm in the city. And then if you want to go higher than 10, it's very simple. You just say the word for 10, which is on, and then you just add to that whatever value. So if it's 14, you just say on dort, 10, 4. If it's 16, on alta, 10, 6. And then 20 is 20, 30 is otuz, 40 is kirk, 50 is eli, and so forth. 100 is use, 1,000 is bin, and 1,000,000 is milyon. Interestingly enough. If you want to ask how much something is, you can say bu ne kadar. Bu is that. So you're saying how much is that? You could also say kaç lira, which just means how many lira. The word kaç, K-A-C with a tail, means literally or figuratively how many, so, or how much. So it's the same, this word is used when you ask how old someone is. If you want to ask how old are you, you say sen kaç yaşındasın. So you, sen, kaç, how many, yaşındasın, years, how many years do you have? If I wanted to say how old I am, for example, 21, so the word for 20 is 20, 21. 21. So it would just be ben 21, yaşındayım. So ben is I, 21, 21, yaşındayım. You notice those words sound similar. When I asked how old someone is, I said sen kaç yaşındasın, ends with the n, and when you respond, the conjugation is different. It's m at the end. So ben 21 yaşındayım. So just very basic stuff. If you, I won't get too into it, but there are a whole number of, the other interesting thing about Turkish is that it's considered an agglutinated language, much like German, which means that much of the meaning in the sentence structure and in the words comes by adding endings, a series of endings to the words. So you end up with some words that when they're written just appear enormously long. This happens in German too. So, for example, if you want to say, I am in Istanbul, I go to Istanbul, for example, you just say, it'd be İstanbul'da gidiyorum. İstanbul'da, that ending da means in, and gidiyorum is I go. Or actually, I suppose, since you're saying you're going to Istanbul, you'd actually have to use a different ending, which would be İstanbul'dan. İstanbul'a. İstanbul'a gidiyorum. There you go. I go to Istanbul, because the action is to rather than in. So you notice there's not really prepositions in the sense that we think of them in English. There's no in, to, for. All of these are not really existing in the same way, because it's agglutinated and it's all about the sort of inflection you put on the end. Yes, that's just a little tiny introduction to Turkish. but it's kind of fun to hear a different language. And if you want to hear a real Turk speaking Turkish, you can look at some of the previous posts. I do have videos of people speaking Turkish. So hopefully it was interesting, and now you can go and speak Turkish to all your friends. So iyi günler, good day.